Good afternoon. I trust that you had a wonderful lunch. At lunch, I coined a brand new Hebrew phrase, Pe'esh, which means fire mouth. It perfectly describes what my body does when I eat curry. My mouth was on fire in such a beautiful way. Tears were coming from my eyes. My face was the color of a grilled tomato. But one of the best meals I've ever had. Now we come to the subject at hand, a joke. An older man and a younger child were fishing in a very cold climate. The older man had been fishing in this same spot for 50 years. On this particular day, he was catching no fish, not even a bite. But he looks over at the young boy, and the young boy within a few minutes has caught 5 fish. So the older gentleman said to the young boy, "Young man, how are you catching all these fish?" And the young boy said, "Brr, brr, brr, brr." That was very good. Yasher Koach. The old man said, "Son, I'm hard of hearing. You must repeat yourself. How did you catch all these fish?" And the young boy answered, "Brr, brr, 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 brr." Finally, the older man got frustrated and said, "Young man, how are you catching the fish?" And the boy said, "You've got to keep your worms warm." Oh, thank you. My name is Pastor Matt McEwen. And I am an interesting animal. I have the beak of a duck, the tail of a beaver, beaver, tail, choose logs, no? Do you have a word in the native language of Sri Lankan for platypus? You are witnessing a platypus before your eyes. Because I am a Christian pastor, but I practice Messianic Judaism. When Hashem invented the platypus, he had lots of spare parts. A package of spare parts. We have a part of this animal and a part of that animal, and we'll put it all together and it's a platypus. That's me. In my lesson today that I want to bring us on this Shabbat, I have a two-part lesson. We're going to break for tea in the middle, but I want to share with us the gospel according to the greater house of Israel. First of all, I'm going to do something that Christian pastors never do, and that is I'm going to give you the 3 points of my sermon first. So if you're taking notes, I'll give you the 3 points now so that you can write them down and then you can fall asleep after lunch. So Rabbi Shapira has given us over the last couple of days some thoughts on the gospel according to the Jews. So I want to give us the gospel according to the greater house of Israel, the body of Messiah, made up of Jews and Gentiles that are one in Yeshua. Do you have your pens and pencils ready? Here we go. Number 1, let your light shine. Let your light shine. Number 2, let others see it. Number 3, let the glory go to God. Let your light shine, let others see it, let the glory go to God. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. No. I'm a pastor. You don't get off that easily. Let me give you a little bit of background. I live in the United States in a state called Florida. I serve as an associate pastor. I'm the teaching pastor at our church. My father is the senior pastor at our church. It's an interesting life when your boss is also your dad. But we have a wonderful relationship, not just as father and son, but a wonderful relationship as pastors working together for the kingdom. And even though I'm from thousands of miles away, I'm from a long way from Asia, my life is very similar to most of yours in that I am not Jewish by blood, but I am Jewish by practice. Our wonderful rabbi that's been sharing with us today on this Shabbat has a school, a yeshiva, which is a Jewish seminary, entitled Yeshivat Shuvu. Shuvu is a wonderful word in Hebrew because it can mean to be restored. It can mean to, it's the same root of the word to return or to repent, but it also is what Yeshua said to a man that needed to rise up and walk. I love this word, and I think it's extremely appropriate that the yeshiva is called Shuvu, because what it's done for my life and for members of the yeshiva here in the congregation today is it's had us return to the authentic gospel of the first century. First of all, let me tell you that there is a lot that the church has gotten right over the centuries. But as we know, it's also gotten some things wrong. So I've been a part of this yeshiva for nearly 4 years, and 2 years ago, I started a teaching program with the permission and blessing of Rabbi Shapira called Kosher Pastor. For many people, if they're not familiar with Messianic Jewish theology or practice or thinking, starting off in the yeshiva is like trying to drink water from a fire hose. Once you taste a little bit of this true, authentic context of the gospel in which it was originally given, you're thirsty. But for some of us, you bend down to take a drink, fire hose knocks you back. It's wonderful that we have a translator today. Because what my brother is doing is taking what I am saying and making sure that everyone can understand. That essence of my ministry called Kosher Pastor. Because I am bilingual. I speak English, and I speak a very specific language called Christianese. For a lot of people, if they come to the they can't even get through some of the first few lessons because they need terms defined. Here is Rabbi Shapira. Here is a Christian. Here's the platypus. I'm a good translator. This is the essence of what my teaching ministry is all about. No doubt there are people in this room that would benefit from the Kosher Pastor platform, or you have friends or family members that think you're a bit of a platypus and maybe they could use Kosher Pastor. There is a cost for the Kosher Pastor program, but today I'm going to give you a lesson for free. Let me boil down for you something that is a deep concept, but I think we can make it more understandable. Who in here is in the Kosher Pastor program already? Have any of you completed the Kosher Pastor program? Okay. If you've gotten this far, here's a quiz. In one of my lessons, I say that we can distill the Christian faith down to 2 words. Or at least I think we can distill modern Christian practice into 2 words. Does anyone know what those 2 words are? That's okay, I'll tell you. This is modern Christianity in 2 words. Avoid sin. Avoid sin. For most of us that come from a church background, our life consisted of Jesus died on the cross for my sins, so I'm going to heaven when I die. That's it. But as we have learned, that's not it. Today I'm going to give you some differences between Christianity and Messianic Judaism. Now, for most of you, this may be a review, but remember, I speak Christianese, you might not anymore. So maybe this is for someone you know. Yes. For those of you in this room, this information I'm going to give you today might not be new. You may have already moved past this very simplified faith. But you may need to take notes for someone you love. So in Judaism, and again, I'm going to speak in a very elementary way, in a very basic way, and you might say, Pastor Matt, I know all this. But sometimes it's good to have a review. In Christianity, at least in the modern world, we talk about avoid sin. Christianity has become all about what you don't. It has become defined by what you do not participate in. Standard Christianity today has become defined by, I'm a Christian, so I don't do this, and I don't do this, and I don't do this. I am here to remind you that Messianic Judaism is the exact opposite. Judaism is not about what you don't do. Judaism is not about avoiding the bad. On the contrary, it's about purposely and proactively doing the good. This might sound very similar, but if we really examine this, this is two very different ways to live. Waking up in the morning saying, I'm not going to do these things, versus waking up in the morning and saying, I'm going to do these things. You see, the truth of the gospel is here in the center. But if you're from a Gentile background, you will see it from a certain angle. But if you're from a Jewish background, you will see it from a different angle. Let me give you a perfect example. This is a standard Christian answer. Yeshua never sinned. Can we agree on that? Yeshua. How many of you agree? Yeshua never sinned. I think that's a true statement. You can put your hands down. Let me tell you the same truth, but from a different angle. It is the Gentile way of thinking to say, Yeshua never sinned. Look at where I'm putting the emphasis. It's about Yeshua avoiding the bad. Now let me come over here from a Jewish perspective. I'm going to say what seems like the same thing, but it's very different. Yeshua kept every commandment. Now let me stand in the middle and look at both sides. If Yeshua kept every commandment in the Torah, he didn't sin. But look at where the emphasis is. From the Christian or the Gentile side, we put the emphasis on the avoidance of sin. But from a Jewish perspective, we would say he kept all the mitzvot. He didn't just not sin, he proactively did Torah. Just this simple example that I've given would make a standard Christian that doesn't know anything about Messianic Judaism, it would make their head explode. We avoid in the Christian church, or if you are in Messianic Judaism but you come from a Christian background, we avoid talking about doing commandments. Why do we do that? Why do we avoid talking about doing commandments, and why instead do we talk about avoiding sin? So I put the question to you. Why does the Christian church not talk about doing mitzvot? Ralph, the distinguished gentleman from Australia, I yield you the balance of my time. Yes, sir.
We're not saved by works, but by grace.
Because we're afraid of works-based salvation. Because the Bible says we are not saved by works, but through grace. This is true. But let me tell you a little secret. No Jew in history has now or ever thought you are saved by works. That's only what Christianity thinks Judaism thinks. That was a really good lunch, and so I'm in a really good mood. I'm about to give you my second kosher pastor lesson absolutely free. Are you ready? There are certain figures of speech that are native to every culture. Our country is so big that it's almost like different parts of our country are different little countries. In the southern part of the United States, where I come from, there are many interesting expressions. This is not going to translate well, but I'm going to give you some examples of southern United States figures of speech. I'm not making these up. These are actual expressions in English in my part of the world. Let's say I was taking an exam in school and I was really nervous that I would not do well. And you are going to, how nervous are you? Okay? I'm really nervous about this exam at school today. That wasn't very strong. I'm really nervous about this exam today at school. as a long tail. Well, but I'm a nervous tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Nervous about this exam. As a dog. Nervous as a dog made of kerosene. Lean trousers. That's nervous. Similar expression and similar expression is in that might not understand. Things audience in America, there are that start in a common to our culture knows the proper response. You might not do. Let's just see if this works. Knock. Interrupt. I just interrupted. What? Why are you not laughing? Ah! I have to translate that nonsense. United States start off like this. A priest, a minister, and a rabbi walk into a bar. And a Baptist minister. Of these a priest, minister, and a someone in the group is going to finish my bar. Let me give you an example of doing something that is Jewish in the Gospels. Don't understand Jewish culture and Jewish teaching, we will not be broke. So Yeshua about a man who got robbed. Let's pretend for a moment that I'm Yeshua telling this time and you are him and they left him half dead. A priest was walking down the road but crossed on the other side. A Levite was walking down the road. Did not help. Instead, he passed on the other side. Who else comes along? Who else comes along? We all know that because we've that's normally goes. And the rabbi if I'm a Jew and I'm telling a story about a priest came along and then there's an answer for the third person.
Who does the audience expect that he's going to mention next? An Israelite. This is the three divisions of Jews. Priests, Levites, and then the Israelites, just children of Israel, common people, just as the regular Jews.
Right.
So Yeshua says a priest comes along, a Levite comes along, and some of the people in the audience, no doubt, turned to their neighbor and said, I know where this is going, an Israelite. Imagine their surprise when this story takes a turn they were not expecting. This won't make sense to you. But if I were in the United States and I said, a priest, a Baptist minister, and a Sri Lankan walked into a bar. They would say, what happened to the rabbi? This is what I'm saying. There's a common culture and a language and a figure of speech that is common in Judaism that if we did not grow up in it, we won't understand. How many of you grew up in the church? Okay, you can put your hands down. Let your light so shine before men so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Here's what we think the light is if we come from a Christian background. We think the light means telling people about Yeshua. In standard Christianity, the light is speech or even thoughts, what you believe.
सामान्य सम्मत पिलिगत क्रिश्चियन धर्मे में आलोके කියන එක සාමාන්‍ය ක්‍රිස්තියානි ධර්මයේ නිර්වචනය කරන්නේ පැහැදිලි කරන්නේ එක්කෝ ඔබගේ කතා කරන වචන එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔබේ හිතන හිතුම් පැතුම්.
We even have a little song for children about letting our light shine.
අතනම අපිට කුඩා ළමුන්ට පවා ගීතයක් තියෙනවා කොහොමද මේ ඔබගේ ආලෝකය අනිත්‍යයි ඉතිරි ගල්වන්නේ කියන එක උගන්වන්නේ.
Do you know the song?
ඔබ දන්නවද මේ ගීතය?
Sing the song.
ගායනා කරපෙන්න.
This little light of mine, I will let it shine. Right? Now, how many of you, when you were a child and you were singing this song, were taught, this little light of mine, it is my good works?
කීදෙනෙක් හිතනවාද මේ මාගේ මේ පුංචි ආලෝකය මගේ හොඳ වැඩ කියලා කවදාවත් ගීතේ ගායනා කළා දෙනවා.
None of us thought that. If anything, we thought letting our light shine meant to witness to someone.
අතනම අපි ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙන විදිය තමයි මේ ආලෝකය අනිත්‍යයට අයදී බබලනවා කියන එකේ තේරුම ඇවිල්ලා අනිත්‍යයට සාක්ෂි දරනවා කියන තේරුම.
But when Yeshua talks about letting your light shine, it's not about belief. In fact, when he talks about letting your light shine, he also mentions something else, salt.
අතනම උන්වහන්සේ මේ ආලෝක අනිත්‍යයේදී බබලනවා කියන එක කිව්වහම උන්වහන්සේ තව දෙයක් කියනවා ඒක පිටුරේට ලුණු.
There's a famous rabbi named Rabbi Yehoshua, Rabbi Joshua in the 1st century. And he was asked a question, what do you do with salt that has become savorless or putrid? In other words, what do you do with salt that has lost its saltiness? This sounds like another famous rabbi that I've heard of. Perhaps you've heard of him too, Rabbi Yeshua. It's interesting that Rabbi Joshua actually has the same name as Rabbi Yeshua. Yeshua is Joshua. It's the same name. But Rabbi Joshua said this, here is the solution if salt loses its saltiness. You must apply to it the afterbirth of a mule. You must have the afterbirth of a mule. So when an animal gives birth, you know, the sac, the thing that, you know, comes out with it, the afterbirth of a mule. Why does this sound funny to us? A very clever young man told me a riddle yesterday. Would you like to hear the riddle? You have a peacock. The peacock lays an egg in your neighbor's house. What is wrong with the statement, if salt loses its saltiness, apply to it the afterbirth of a mule?
මොකද්ද මේ
Mules can't give birth. They're sterile. A mule is the product of the mating of a horse and a donkey. And they are sterile.
කොටලුවෙක් කියලා කියන්නේ අස්ස දෙනෙක් සහ බෝරුවෙක් අතර ඇති සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඇති වෙන හැදෙන සතෙක් කොටලුවෙක්. ඇත්තටම ඕන් උත ළමයි හදන්න බෑ. පැටව ගහන්න බෑ.
Rabbi Joshua is a very good rabbi and gives a very Jewish answer.
Rabbi Joshua මේකට හරි හොඳ උත්තරයක් දෙනවා.
In other words, his answer was, mules don't give birth. It is just as impossible for salt to not be salty.
ඇත්තටම රබා ජොෂුවා තමයි එතන දෙන්නේ හරි වටිනා උත්තරය. කොටලුව පැටව ගහන්නේ වගේ ඒක කවදාවත් වෙන්නේ නැති දෙයක් වගේ ලුණු වලට කවදාවත් ලුණු ගතිය නැති වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක.
The same is true with our Rabbi Yeshua.
මේකම තමයි අපි රබා යේෂුවා කියන්නේ.
What do you do with salt that loses its saltiness? Well, you throw it out and it's trampled underfoot.
ලුණු ගතිය නැති වෙච්ච ලුණු වලට ඔබ මොකද කරන්නේ? ඒවා පායකට දානවා කියලා කිව්වහම
this does not make any sense.
මේක ඇත්තටම එහෙම කිසිම තේරුමක් නැති කතාවක් මේක.
Salt cannot be unsalty.
ලුණු නැති ලුණු ගතිය නැති ලුණු කවදාවත් තියෙන්නේ නැහැ.
It's salt.
ඒක ලුණු.
It's impossible.
ඒක වෙන්නේ නැහැ කවදාවත්.
It doesn't make any sense.
ඒක ඇත්තටම කිසිම සාර්ථකයක් නැහැ.
That's the point.
ඒක තමයි මේකේ තියෙන කාරණය.
What is the salt?
මොකක්ද ලුණු
He
කියන්නේ?
says you are the salt of the earth. What is the salt?
උන්වහන්සේ කියන ඔබ තමයි පොළොවේ ලුණු කියලා. මොකක්ද මේ ලුණු කියන්නේ?
Is the salt your belief?
ඒ කියන්නේ ඔබගේ බහිල්ලද?
Is the salt your words?
ඔබගේ වචනද මේ ලුණු කියන්නේ?
What is the salt?
මොකක්ද ලුණු කියලා උන්වහන්සේ මේ මෙතන තේරුම් ගන්න හදන්නේ?
Your actions.
ඔබගේ
It's
ක්‍රියා.
both. Your good works.
ඔබගේ හොඳ ක්‍රියා. මේව තමයි උන්වහන්සේ ලුණු කියලා අතදක්වන්න හදන්නේ.
Let's go to the next slide. So the same is true with the light. Judaism is very good at thinking in stereo.
ජුදා ආගම ඇත්තටම වෙන් කරන හිතන එක ගැන හරි යම් ප්‍රවීණත්වයක් ගන්නවා.
How many of you would love to be an expert in one kind of Hebrew poetry right now?
කීදෙනෙක් කැමති යුදෙව් පොයට්‍රි ගැන දැනගන්නට?
I'm so glad you've said that because I am an expert in Hebrew poetry.
මම ඇත්තටම හීබ්‍රු පොයට්‍රි වල ප්‍රවීණයෙක්.
At least in one kind of it.
අඩුවගානේ එක්තරා කාලයක.
The kind that I'm an expert in is all throughout the book of Proverbs.
අතන මම ඒ දන්න හීබ්‍රු කවි ඇත්තටම හිතෝපදේශ පොතේ හැම තැනකම තියෙනවා.
Perfect example, Proverbs 17:17.
හිතෝපදේශ 17 තියෙනවා මම කියන කවි ක්‍රමය ගැන.
A friend loves at all times. A friend loves at all times.
යහළුවෙක් නිතරම හොඳ ආදරය වෙනවා.
And the brother is born for adversity.
නමුත් සහෝදරෙක් ඉපදලා තියෙන්නේ හතුරුකම් කරන්න.
In this specific type of Hebrew poetry, I've just said one thing and then I've said the opposite.
මේ හේබ්‍රු කවිවල එක පේලික කියනවා එක දෙයක් අනිත් පේලික කියන ඒ හාත්පසින්ම විරුද්ධ දෙයක්.
Another type of Hebrew poetry says one thing and then another statement that means the same thing.
තව සමහර කවිවල හේබ්‍රු එක පේලික කියනවා එක දෙයක් ඒ අනිත් පේලික ඒ හා සමානම දෙයක් කියනවා.
And it's not just in poetry, it's just in Jewish teaching. Here's a perfect example. You're the light of the world, you're the salt of the earth.
මේක ඇත්තටම යුදෙව් ඉගැන්වීම් ක්‍රමයක්. ඒක මේ මෙතන විශ්ව උගන්වනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔබ ලෝකයේ ආලෝකය කියලා කියන ගම තව දැනට ඒ සමානම දෙයක් සංකල්පයක් ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. ඔබේ පොළොවේ ලුණු කියලා උගන්වනවා.
You've already answered correctly. You know what the salt is. So there's your hint. Now, what is the light?
එතකොට උන්වහන්සේ කියනවා මේ ඔබ පොළවේ ලුණු කියනකොට අතන ඔබ අඳුර දන්නවා මේ ලුණු කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා ඔබ හොඳ ක්‍රියා. එහෙනම් ඔබට දැන් ඉතියක් තියෙනවා මොකක්ද ආලෝකය කියන්නේ කියලා.
I know this isn't a hard question because Yeshua says it in the verse. Let your light shine before men so that they may see your good works. Let's look at Ephesians 2:10.
Ephesians 2:10 අපි බලමු.
You can go to the next slide. For we are his workmanship.
අපි අහින උන්වහන්සේගේ අත්කර්මාන්තය කියලා කියනවා.
Next slide, please. We are created to do good works. And the next one. Let's look at Ephesians 2:10. For we are his workmanship, created in the sight of Yeshua for good deeds, which God prepared beforehand so that we might walk in them.
ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ පෙර කාලේ උන්වහන්සේට අපි උන්වහන්සේගේ අත්කර්මාන්තය උන්වහන්සේ අපිව යේසුස් මෙසාර තුළ ක්‍රියා මවලා තියෙන උන්වහන්සේගේ මොකද ක්‍රියා කරන්න මොකද උන්වහන්සේ කලින් අපිව ඒකට සූදානම් කරලා තිබුණා මොකද අපි ඒක තුළ අවිදිනට පුළුවන් කියන තමයි අපි කියන්නේ.
How many of you feel right now like you're back in kindergarten?
කීදෙනෙක් හිතනවද ඔබ ආයි බාලාංශයට ගියා කියලා?
How many of you are saying, Pastor Matt, this is so easy, we know this?
කීදෙනෙක් කියනවද පාස්ටර් මැට් මේවා හරි ලේසි මේවා අපිට ලේසි කියලා?
Let me tell you a short story about a friend of mine. He speaks English, but his native tongue is Spanish.
මනුස්සයෙක් ගැන කියනවා ඔහු ඉංග්‍රීසි කතා කරන ඔහු ඇත්තටම ඔහුගේ මව් භාෂාව ස්පාඤ්ඤ භාෂාව.
One time I witnessed him having a conversation with his mother in English.
මම දවසක් ඔහුගේ මවත් සමග යම් දෙබසක් අහගෙන හිටියා.
But his mother said something that he didn't like very much, and so he got emotional and started speaking very quickly.
එතන ඔහුගේ මව අනිත් පැත්තේ ඉඳලා ඔහු අකමැති දෙයක් කිව්වහම ඔහුට කෝප වෙලා ඔහු හයියෙන් කතා කරන්න පටන් ගත්තා. The faster he spoke and the more passionate he got, without meaning to or even realizing it, he switched to Spanish. ඔහු කතා කරන ගම එහෙම කතා කරනකොට ඔහුට කොච්චර තරහින් ආවේශික වුණාද ගොඩ ඔහු ටික වෙලාවකින් ඉංග්‍රීසි කතා කරන ගම එකපාරට ස්පාඤ්ඤ භාෂාවට මාරු වුණා. That's why I'm giving you this elementary lesson. Because sometimes when we are stressed, or when we are emotional, or when we are frustrated, we might accidentally switch back into the tongue that we grew up in. I won't ask for a show of hands on this one, but there are people in this room, maybe most of us, maybe even all of us, that have known they need to do a certain mitzvah, but have felt in the back of their mind, oh, I don't want to be legalistic. ඇත්තටම අපි මෙතන සමහර දෙනෙක් එහෙම නැත්නම් බොහෝ දෙනෙක් එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි හැමදේම වෙන්න පුළුවන් සමහර ආඥා පවත්තන හදනකොට අපිට ආඥා පවත්තන්න වෙනවොත් හිතේ කොරකින් කියනවා මනසේ කොරකින් කියනවා ඒ උනට මම මේක මම ආපහු ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් දෙන්නට නීති පද්ධතිය ඇතුළේ වෙනවා කියලා ඔබට හිතෙන්නත් පුළුවන්.
Do you remember the cat with the long tail?
ඔබට මතකද නැට්ටික පොසක කියවන?
Let me give you another figure of speech from the southern United States. You can't clean a fish until you catch it. That's wise. You can't prepare the fish to eat until you've caught it. You must catch the fish and then you prepare it to eat. Here's why we don't need to worry about works-based salvation. Because Hashem caught the fish of Israel and then he cleaned it.
මොකද හේතුව හෂෙන් ඊශ්‍රායල් කියන මාළුවව අල්ලලා තමයි ඊට පස්සේ සූදානම් කරන්නේ කන්නේ.
He did not say to the fish, clean yourself up, prepare yourself, and then I will catch you.
කවදාවත් උන්වහන්සේ කිව්වේ නැහැ ඊශ්‍රායලට නුඹ ඔබ සෙන්දා සුද්ධ කරගෙන පවිත්‍ර වෙලා ඉන්න ඊට පස්සේ මම ඔබ කන්න අල්ලන්නම් කියලා කිව්වේ නැහැ හෂේ.
Here is the timeline that our Christian brothers and sisters have forgotten.
මෙන්න මේ කාලවකවානුව මෙන්න මේක තමයි කාලවකවානුව අපේ ක්‍රිස්තියානි සහෝදරවරු මේ සංකල්පය අමතක කරනවා.
This is the proper timeline.
මේක තමයි ප්‍රශ්න දෙන කාලවකවානුව.
It's in the Torah, you can read it for yourself.
ඔබට මේක තෝරාවේ තියෙන ඔබට කියවන්න පුළුවන්.
God redeemed the children of Israel from Egypt.
ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ඊජිප්තෙන් මේ මිනිස්සු ඉස්රායෙල්සුන් බේරගත්තා.
And then 50 days later,
ඊට පස්සේ 50 දවස් 50කට පසු
he told them how to live.
උන්වහන්සේ කිව්වා කොහොමද ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
He did not say, if you follow these commandments, I will redeem you.
උන්වහන්සේ කවදාවත් කිව්වේ නැහැ ඉස්රායෙල්සුන්ට ඔබ මේ ආඥා පැවැත්වුවොත් මම ඔබ ඊජිප්තෙන් අරව ගන්නම් කියලා.
That would be works-based salvation.
ඒක තමයි ක්‍රියා කරන කොටකට ගැලවීම.
That would be legalism.
මේක තමයි ව්‍යවස්ථාව කියන එක නීති පද්ධතියක් කියන්නේ.
God redeemed them out of his grace and kindness, and then he taught them how to live.
ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ඉස්සරහම බුදුවගෙන තමයි ඊට පස්සේ කොහොමද ජීවත් වෙන්නේ කියන එක කියලා දුන්නේ.
Our mitzvot, our light, our salt does not save us.
අපේ හොඳ ක්‍රියා අපිව කොහොමද ගලවන්නේ නැහැ.
This is what the church does not understand.
මේක තමයි සභාවට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ ක්‍රිස්තියානි සභාවට.
They think that Judaism is all about works for salvation.
ඒගොල්ලන් හිතනවා මේ ජුඩයිසම් කියන්නේ අතන ක්‍රියාවලින් ගැලවීම ලබන ක්‍රමවේදයක් කියලා.
Because in Christianity, salvation is the finish line.
මොකද හේතුව ක්‍රිස්තියානි සභාවේ ගැලවීම කියන්නේ අතනම අවසාන ඉලක්කය.
Not in Judaism.
නමුත් ජුදෙව් ආගමේ එහෙම නෙමෙයි.
In Judaism, salvation is the starting line.
අතන ජුදෙව් ආගමේ ගැලවීම කියන්නේ එහි පටන් ගැනීම පමණයි.
God has redeemed me.
ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මම බුදුවගෙන තියෙනවා.
Now I have a race to run.
දැන් මට තියෙන තරගයක් දුවන්න.
If you make salvation the finish line, you will say, I am saved, now I can rest.
නමුත් ඔබ ක්‍රිස්තියානි ධර්මයේ වගේ ඔබ හිතුවොත් එහෙම ගැලවීම කියන්නේ අන්තිම ඉලක්කය කියලා. නමුත් ඔබ ගැලවෙච්ච ගමන් ඔබ කියයි දැන් මට කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ මම ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන තැනට කියලා.
This is a real problem because it's not even biblical.
මේක ඇත්තටම ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් මොකද මේක බයිබලයේ නෙවෙයි.
Salvation is not here. It is not the finish line. It is the starting line.
ගැලවීම කියන එක අවසාන ඉලක්කය නෙවෙයි. ඒක තමයි ආරම්භය.
We are not saved by our works.
අපි ගැලවෙලා තියෙන අපේ ක්‍රියාවලින් නෙවෙයි.
We are saved so we do the works.
අතන අපි ගැලවෙලා තියෙන්නේ අපිට හොඳ ක්‍රියා කරන්නට.
What did Yeshua himself say? Show me the fruit, not the belief.
ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මොකද කියන්නේ? මට ඔබගේ ඵල පෙන්වන්න කියලා කියන්නේ ඇදහිත නෙවෙයි පෙන්වන්න කියන්නේ.
I'm glad Rabbi Shapira is here because these are his favorite 2 slides of this message. Let's go to the next slide. Get ready, Rabbi. A mitzvah is an action.
මිත්වා එකකට ආඥාවක් කියන්නේ ක්‍රියාවක්.
It's not a belief.
ඒක අනිත්‍ය විශ්වාසයක් ඇදහිල්ලක් නෙවෙයි.
Basing a religion on beliefs and philosophy is Greek.
අතනම ආගමක් කියන එක ඇදහිල්ලක් මත තියෙන දෙයක් නම් අතන මේක ග්‍රීක චින්තනය.
That's humanistic philosophy, not Judaism.
ඒක යුදෙව් සංකල්පයක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක ග්‍රීක සංකල්පයක්.
Let's go to the next slide. Here's Rabbi Shapira's favorite thing I have ever said. A mitzvah is not passive.
මිත්වා එකකට ආඥාවක් කියන එක අක්‍රීය දෙයක් නෙවෙයි.
A mitzvah is not passive.
මිත්වා එකක් කියන්නේ අක්‍රීය දෙයක් නෙවෙයි.
Let me give you a Jewish answer.
මම ඔබට යුදෙව් උත්තරයක් දෙන්නම්.
I don't care how much you know. What are you doing?
මට වැඩක් නෑ ඔබ කොච්චර දන්නවද කියලා යුදෙව්වරයෙක් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අහන්නේ මොනවද ඒක ගැන කරන්නේ.
The sages of Israel tell a very famous story about a man who wanted to pray, but he didn't know Hebrew yet.
අපේ ආදිපියවරු කතා කරනවා එක මිනිස්සෙක් ඔහුට යාත්‍රා කරන්න අවශ්‍යයි නමුත් ඔහු හීබ්‍රු භාෂාව දැනගෙන හිටියේ නෑ.
All he knew was the alphabet. He didn't know any words or prayers.
ඔහු දැනගෙන සිටි හේබ්‍රෙව් අක්ෂර කෝඩිය විතරයි.
But the sages say that even though he knew this much,
නමුත් අපේ ආධිපතිවරු කියනවා ඔහු හේබ්‍රෙව් වල ඒ අක්ෂර කෝඩිය විතරක් දැනගෙන හිටියත්
Hashem hearkened to his prayer because he prayed with everything in him. He was active and not passive.
ඔහු යාඥා කරේ හෂෙම් අහුණා කියලා කියනවා. ඔහුගේ හදවතේ තිබුණු සියලු දේ මොකද හේතුව ඔහු මුළු වීර්යයෙන් උන්වහන්සේ යාඥා කරලා දුන්නා.
Initiative is a key in Judaism.
පටන් ගන්න කියන එක ඇත්තටම යුද සංකල්පයේ හරි ඊට වැදගත් සංකල්පයක්.
This man knew no words and no prayers, only the alphabet.
මේ මනුස්සයා යාඥා කරේ ඇත්තටම වචන නෙමෙයි හේබ්‍රු අක්ෂර හොඩි අකුරු තමයි යාඥා කරේ. නමුත් වෙනහන්සේ ඔහුගේ යාඥාව තේරුම් ගත්තා කියලා කියනවා.
But with everything in his being, he prayed, Aleph, Bet, Gimel. This is a true story from our sages.
ඇත්තටම මේ මනුස්සයා යාඥා කරන මේ මනුස්සයාගේ යාඥාවේ වචන නෙමෙයි ආවේ මනුස්සයා හීබ්‍රුවලින් යාඥා කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. ඒ මනුස්සයා අලෙෆ් බෙත් ගිමෙල් කීකේ තමයි යාඥා කරේ කියලා කියනවා. නමුත් සෝමනන්සේ යාඥා අහුව කියලා කියනවා.
The sages of Israel say that Hashem hearkens to the prayer of just reciting the alphabet because of what was in here, not what was in here.
අපේ ආධිපතිවරු කියනවා සෝමනන්සේ යාඥා අහුව කියලා. මොකද හේතුව ඔහුගේ මනසේ තිබිච්ච දේවල් නෙමෙයි ඔහු යාඥා කරේ. ඔහුගේ හදවතේ තිබිච්ච දේවල් තමයි ඔහු හේබ්‍රෙව් අකුරු කීකේ යාඥා කරේ කියලා.
Do not come to the yeshiva or kosher pastor for information.
ඔබ යෙෂිවකට කෝෂ පාස්තර කියන එකට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න එපා. මේ සමාජික ඉතර ගන්න එපා. ඔබට දැනුම රැස් කර ගන්නට අවශ්‍ය නැහැ.
This sounds counterintuitive, but our goal for you in your learning is not information.
අපේ ඉලක්කය අපේ මේ පාසල ඉලක්කය විලා ඔබට වඩා තොරතුරු ලබා දෙන එක නොවේ.
It is, however, transformation. This is the problem with many in the Messianic Jewish movement today. They have this much knowledge, but they have this much practice. Or they have this much knowledge and this much practice.
මේක තමයි තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ. ඔවුන්ට ගොඩක් දැනුම තියෙනවා. නමුත් හරි සුළු ක්‍රියාවල් තමයි තියෙන්නේ.
If you don't know what it means to wear a kippah, don't do it.
ඔබ දන්නේ නැත්නම් කිප්පා එකක් අදින එකේ හේතුව ඔබ ඒක කරන්න දෙපා.
Because this is a billboard.
මේක ඇවිල්ලා බිල්බෝඩ් එක.
What does this say about you if you wear this?
මේක අන්දම අතර මේකෙන් ඔබ ගැන මොකද කියන්නේ?
It says I practice Judaism.
මේකෙන් කියන්නේ ඔබ ජුදා ආගම ක්‍රියා කරනවා අනුගමනය කරනවා කියන එකයි මේකේ තේරුම.
I identify with the Jewish people.
මම යුදවරුන් සමග තමයි මගේ අගමැතිතාවය කියන්නේ.
If you put this on and you don't know what it means or don't know how to practice Judaism, you are playing dress up.
ඔබ ඇත්තටම මේක දන්නේ නැතුව මේ කිප්පා එක දානවා ඇත්තටම ඔබ විකට ඇඳුම් තරගයක වගේ ඔබ නිකන් ඇඳුමක් අඳගෙන නිකන් සෙල්ලම් කරනවා වගේ වැඩක් ඒක.
I wore a baseball cap for 2 years before I wore a kippah.
මම මේ කිප්පා එක අඳින්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා මම බේස්බෝල් කැප් එකක් තමයි අවුරුදු දෙකක් තිස්සේ අඳගෙන හිටියේ.
It served the same purpose. I was covering my head as part of Jewish tradition.
අතන මම යුදෙව අගමැතිතාවයක් හින්දා මම බේස්බෝල් කැප් එකක් තමයි අඳගෙන හිටියේ. මොකද හේතුව ඒකෙන් උනේ එකම දේ.
But until I learned about what Rabbi Ben Huna said about not walking 4 amot without having my head covered, I didn't do it.
අතන මම රබායි වලේ මේ කිප්පා එක අඳින එකේ වැදගත්කම කියලා දෙන එක කියවනකම් මම කිප්පා එක අඳින්නේ නැහැ.
Be active, but make sure you understand what you're doing.
ඔබ ක්‍රියාකාරී වෙන්න ඕනේ. නමුත් ඔබ ක්‍රියාකාරී වෙන අතරම ඔබ කරන දේ තේරුම දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ.
Are we ready for a tea break? Yeah. Good. Here is where I will leave us before the break. I'm going to give you something to think about. Let's have the next slide.
අපි තේ පානේට ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපි මේ එක කාරණයක් බලමු.
A lamp does not shine on its own.
ලාම්පුවක් පහන තමුන්ම ගල්වගන්නේ නැහැ.
Oil lamps do not spontaneously burst into flame.
කිසිම පහන තමුන් සුවල්සහෙන් දැල්වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
They must be lit.
ඒක කවුරු හරි පත්තු කරන්න ඕන.
The oil is the fuel.
තෙල් තමයි ඒකට තියෙන ඉන්ධන.
If you're going to let your light shine,
ඔබගේ පහන ඔබගේ ආලෝකය බවරවන්න නම්
you can't do it in your own strength.
ඔබට ඔබගේ ශක්තියෙන් ඉඳ කරන්න බෑ.
You must have someone ignite you, and you must have someone fueling.
ඔබට කවුරු හරි එක පත්තු කරන්න ඉන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම ඔබට ඒක තෙල් දාන්න කවුරු ඉන්න ඕනේ.
If you are fueling your own light, it will go out.
ඔබගේම ආලෝකය ඔබගේ ඉන්ද්‍ර පත්තු කරනවා ඒක ටික වෙලාවකින් නැවතිලා.
And not only that, if you're fueling your own light, you are not glorifying your Father which is in heaven, like Yeshua said.
අතන ඔබගේම පහන ඔබම දැල්ලා ගන්නවා. අතන ඔබ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මහිමයටපත් කරන්නේ. ඔබ අතන මහිමයටපත් කරගන්නේ ඔබමයි.
The problem with many in the Messianic movement today is they have traded their light, their lamp, for a spotlight.
අතන ඔබ මෙසානික සභාවල තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි ඔවුන්ගේ පහන පැත්තකට දාලා ඒක හුවමාරු කරන් තියෙනවා ස්පොට්ලයිට් එකකට තමුම පේන.
Instead of having a lamp that you put on a stand, they have a spotlight saying, "Look at me, look at all the good things I do."
ඔවුන්ගේ පහන ඇත්තටම පහන් රුකක් මත තියෙනවා වෙනුවට ඔවුන්ට ස්පොට්ලයිට් එක දාගෙන කියනවා මේ මම මේව මාව බලන්න මේ මම තමයි කියලා ඒ ඇටෙන්ෂන් එක ඔබට ගන්න අවධානය ඔබට ගන්න ක්‍රමවේදය තමයි මෙසානික සභාවේ.
The spotlight is seductive.
මේ ස්පොට්ලයිට් එක කියන එක හරි රැවටුනි සහගතයි.
We are not called to be the sun.
අපිට නෙමෙයි අනගහලා තියෙන්නේ ඉර වෙන්නේ.
The sun in our world is the source of light.
අතන ඉර අවිල්ලා සූර්යය අවිල්ලා අපේ ලෝකයේ ආලෝකයේ ප්‍රභවය.
Doesn't the moon also have its own light? No. Whose light is it? The moon has a light, but it's merely reflecting the light of the sun.
සඳටත් ආලෝකයක් තියෙනවා. නමුත් සඳේ ආලෝකයේ සඳ ඇවිල්ලා ආලෝකයේ ප්‍රභවයක් නෙමෙයි. නමුත් සඳ කරන්නේ සූර්යාගේ ආලෝකය පරාවර්තනය කරන එක.
When the moon shines, the sun gets the glory.
අතනම හඳ බැබලෙනකොට එහි මහිමය යන්නේ සූර්යාට.
When our light shines, God needs to get the glory.
අපි බැබලෙනකොට එහි මහිමය යන්නේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේට.
Let me pray for us.
Lord,
we thank you for allowing us to have this bit of basic teaching today to remind us that it's not all about me. Help us to remember that we are to let our light shine, but that light is not to be a spotlight on us, but rather we need to reflect your light to the world around us. Help us to let our light shine, Lord, so that others may see our good works, not for our glory, but for yours. Help us to understand the true gospel according to the greater house of Israel has to do with doing the good work that you have set out for us to do without being afraid of being accused of legalism. Help us to not live lives of defensiveness, trying to avoid temptation and avoid sin, but rather, Lord, help us to proactively and purposely be about the mitzvot that you have called us to do. Help us to live the lives of a light that is reflected to the world, that does not come from us, but rather shines through us, because you are the source. You are the light. And help us to remember that the mitzvot you have called us to do and ordered for us to do before the foundation of the world, these mitzvot do not give us salvation, but rather, since we have salvation, we want to live for you. We want to do the mitzvot. We want to live like our Messiah Yeshua, who did Torah in excellence and never for his own glory. For even though he is Mashiach, he always reflected glory back to you. Even when someone came to him and called him good teacher, he said, don't call me good. No one is good but God alone. If the Messiah, if the King of Israel can be humble in his mitzvot, Lord, help us to trade our spotlight sin for a lamp that we can put on a stand. A lamp that we get out of our own hands, that we put on a stand. We don't even hold it any longer. We place it apart from us so that it can fill the room with light. Lord, the truth is, our Christian friends and family members, our loved ones, they need to understand the true, authentic gospel without having a fear of works-based salvation or legalism. Help us to somehow inspire them to not stop at tikkun nefesh, but to do tikkun olam in your name and for your glory, to make tikkunim in our world for your glory, for your sake, for your kingdom. B'Shem Yeshua Mishachenu. Amen. And amen. Thank you, and get some tea.